Imagine waking up one morning and noticing your vision is slightly off. Not blurry from sleep, not from staring at a screen too long, just different, quieter at the edges. You tell yourself it's nothing, but it isn't nothing. Because somewhere inside your body, a process has been running for years, silently, without warning, without pain. A process that can steal your vision, destroy your kidneys, cut off feeling in your feet, and dramatically raise your risk of heart attack and stroke. Most people think diabetes is a sugar problem. Too many sweets, too many sodas, too much of the wrong food. But that explanation barely scratches the surface. Because the real story isn't about sugar at all. It's about something far stranger. Your body can be completely surrounded by fuel and still be starving. How is that possible? How can every cell in your body be drowning in energy and still be dying for more? And if that's happening, why don't people collapse the moment it starts? To understand that, we need to look at one of the most important systems keeping you alive right now. The fuel of life. Every second of every day, your body is burning energy. Right now, your brain is using energy to process these words. Your heart is using energy to push blood through 60,000 miles of vessels. Your lungs, your liver, your immune system, all running at once. None of it ever stops. And to power all of that, your body depends heavily on one thing. Glucose, a simple sugar, the body's primary fuel. Every time you eat, your digestive system breaks that food down into smaller pieces. Some of those pieces become glucose. That glucose enters the bloodstream and starts moving, traveling toward every organ, every muscle, every cell that needs it. On the surface, the system sounds almost too simple. Food becomes fuel. Fuel enters the blood. Cells use the fuel. But there's a catch. Glucose can't just walk into most cells whenever it wants. The door is locked, and without the right key, the fuel never arrives. So what is the key? The key that changes everything. The key is called insulin, a hormone produced deep inside the pancreas. Its job is straightforward: help glucose move from the bloodstream into the cells that need it. Picture a city, millions of homes, all with the lights on. Every house needs fuel to keep running. Glucose is the delivery truck. The cell is the house, and insulin is the key that unlocks the front door. When insulin works properly, the door opens. The delivery arrives, the cell receives its fuel. The lights stay on. This happens thousands of times every minute. Quietly, automatically, perfectly. Most people never think about it because they never have to. But what happens when the key disappears? What happens when the locks stop responding? That is exactly where diabetes begins. When the system breaks. Diabetes is not one disease. The two most common forms, type 1 and type 2, attack the system in different ways, but both lead to the same dangerous outcome. In type 1, the body produces little or no insulin. The key is simply gone. Without it, glucose can't efficiently reach the cells that need it. Type 2 is different, and in some ways more deceptive. Insulin is still there. The key still exists, but the locks have stopped responding to it. This is called insulin resistance. The body tries to compensate. It produces more insulin, then more, then more. But over time, the system starts to buckle under the pressure. Imagine standing at a door, turning a key that used to work perfectly, over and over. The lock barely moves. Whether the key is missing or the lock is broken, the result is the same. Glucose starts building up in the bloodstream, and that creates a paradox, a dangerous one. Starving inside. This is where diabetes becomes truly strange. The bloodstream is full of fuel. Blood sugar climbs. More glucose circulates. More arrives with every meal. And yet, the cells that depend on that fuel, they still can't get enough. Picture thousands of delivery trucks flooding a city's highways. Roads packed, warehouses overflowing, more trucks arriving by the minute, but not a single delivery reaches its destination. Inside the homes, the lights start flickering. Machines slow down, resources dry up. The city is surrounded by fuel, and parts of it are behaving like they're starving. That is the central contradiction of diabetes. The body isn't running out of energy, it's losing access to energy. But here's the next question, and this one is important. If glucose is just sitting in the bloodstream, why doesn't the body simply ignore it? Because sugar left in the wrong place for long enough doesn't just sit there, it starts causing damage. When sugar becomes a weapon. Sugar isn't poison. Without glucose, life would be impossible. Every cell, every organ, every thought depends on it. The problem isn't that sugar exists. The problem is where it stays. When blood sugar remains elevated for years, it begins affecting the body's tissues, especially the blood vessels. Think of the circulatory system as a highway network. Thousands of roads connecting every region of the body. Some of those roads are wide. Some are barely wider than a thread. When those roads slowly deteriorate, deliveries get harder. Traffic slows. Entire regions start suffering. And the smallest roads, the tiniest vessels, are often the first to break down. That's a serious problem, because some of the body's most vital organs depend entirely on those tiny vessels to survive. Which organs lose first? Theft of vision. Before diabetes takes a foot, it often threatens something else, your vision. At the back of each eye sits a delicate layer of tissue called the retina. The retina is what turns light into the images you see. And to do that, it depends on a network of microscopic blood vessels. When diabetes damages those vessels, things begin to unravel. Some vessels start to leak, others become blocked. In response, the eye may try to grow new vessels, but those new vessels are fragile, abnormal, and make things worse. Vision becomes blurred, details start to disappear. In severe cases, blindness follows, and the most dangerous part, the damage often begins long before anyone notices anything wrong. No pain, no sudden warning, just a slow, invisible deterioration. But the eyes aren't the only organs at risk. Another critical system is facing the exact same threat. The kidneys under siege. Right now, your kidneys are filtering your entire blood supply multiple times a day. They remove waste, balance fluids, regulate chemistry, keep the internal environment of your body stable. To do all of that, they rely on millions of microscopic filters, delicate, intricate, irreplaceable, and diabetes, through the same mechanism destroying the vessels in your eyes, slowly damages those filters too. Over years, their performance declines. Waste accumulates, fluid balance shifts. The kidneys lose their ability to do what they were built to do. Eventually, some patients need dialysis, others need a transplant, all of it tracing back to the same root problem. Fuel is no longer being managed the way it was designed to be. But blindness and kidney failure still don't explain one of diabetes' most unsettling effects. Why do some people stop feeling their own feet? The silent attack on nerves. Pain is one of the body's most important tools. It warns you, protects you, forces you to act before something gets worse. But what happens when those warnings go silent? Nerves are the body's communication system. They carry signals between the brain and everything else: temperature, pressure, movement, pain. When diabetes disrupts the blood supply feeding those nerves, the signals start to fail. At first, it might feel like tingling, a mild burning, numbness in the toes, easy to dismiss. But over time, entire regions can lose sensation. And that's when things get dangerous. An injury happens. A cut, a blister, a wound that should trigger an immediate urgent response. But the alarm never goes off. The damage continues quietly, unnoticed, unaddressed, getting worse. Which brings us to one of the most feared complications of diabetes: Why amputations happen. Amputations rarely begin with a catastrophe. They usually begin with something small. A blister from a shoe that didn't fit quite right. A minor cut on the bottom of the foot. Something that, in a healthy person, would heal in a few days without a second thought. But reduced sensation makes those injuries easy to miss, and damaged circulation makes them nearly impossible to heal. The wound stays open, bacteria move in, infection spreads, tissue begins to break down. What started as something small becomes something that can no longer be saved. Most people have heard that diabetes can lead to amputation. Far fewer understand why. It's not one dramatic moment, it's a chain, years long, of damage that builds on damage. And while all of that is happening in the extremities, another threat is growing somewhere far more central. The heart and the brain. The circulatory system connects everything. When blood vessels throughout the body experience long-term damage, the consequences don't stay local. They spread. Heart attacks become more likely. Strokes become more likely. The same disease affecting the tiny vessels in the eyes and kidneys is also affecting the larger vessels feeding the heart and brain. This is why diabetes commands so much attention from physicians worldwide. It doesn't just attack one organ, it threatens the entire network, and it does it quietly, over years, which is perhaps the most deceptive part of all. The disease that whispers. Most dangerous diseases are loud. Pain demands your attention. Sudden symptoms force a response. The body sends unmistakable signals that something is wrong. Diabetes is different. For many people, the damage unfolds in slow motion. Months become years, years become decades. Blood vessels change, nerves change, organs change, and through much of it, a person may feel relatively normal. That's what makes diabetes so difficult and so dangerous. The disease whispers long before it screams, and by the time major complications become impossible to ignore, some of the damage may already be irreversible. Zwazend scientific closure. Most people hear the word diabetes and think sugar, too much of it, in the wrong places, causing harm. But sugar was never the real story. The real story is access. The body may be full of fuel, the bloodstream may be overflowing with glucose. And yet, the cells that depend on that fuel, they still can't reach it. A key that's gone. A lock that stopped responding. A delivery system that broke down in ways most people never see coming. And from that single failure, a cascade spreads through the entire body. Vision, kidneys, nerves, heart, brain, all connected, all affected. So the next time someone says diabetes is just a sugar disease, remember what's really happening inside. The danger was never that sugar existed. The danger is what happens when a body full of fuel can no longer deliver it, when every cell is surrounded by energy and still starving.